The average mold removal job costs $33,000. What I'm holding right now costs just $4, and it does the job 3 times better. There's a billion-dollar industry out there built on the idea that you need their products and their specialists to solve a problem that homesteaders were beating long before any of that existed. And the advice they keep selling you, seal it up, lock it tight, that advice is actually why most people keep losing. The homesteads that never called a specialist, never bought a machine, and never replaced a filter weren't lucky. They just understood that staying dry is a system, not a product, and almost every piece of that system costs next to nothing. In fact, it already exists on your land. What's in this jar is among one of 15 things I'm going to show you today that will help reduce humidity and remove mold forever. Let's start with the one that made me feel a little stupid for all the years I didn't know it. You've heard the old trick: leave a bowl of salt out to catch the damp. And sure, table salt does a little something. It soaks up about its own weight in water and then it just gives up and sits there, soggy and useless. But there's a cousin of table salt that's an absolute monster at this: calcium chloride. You probably already buy it every winter to melt the ice on your steps. But here's the wild part: calcium chloride doesn't just hold a little moisture, it pulls in 3 to 6 times its own weight in water. It grabs so much that it actually dissolves itself into a puddle of liquid. Put it in a room sitting at 80% humidity, and in about 3 days, you've dragged that down to the low 40s. Now, here's where I got a little annoyed. That stuff they sell you in the little tubs at the hardware store, the famous one everybody buys for damp closets, open it up. It's calcium chloride. The exact same pellets in my ice melt bag, just with a fancy label and a price tag about 10 times higher. So skip the tub. Take a 5-gallon bucket, set a colander inside the rim, fill the colander with ice melt pellets, and let the brine drip down into the bucket below. That's it. That's the whole machine. Empty the water when it fills, refill the pellets, repeat. One quick warning though: wear gloves when you handle that brine because it's alkaline. If you touch it barehanded, it will exfoliate your skin right back into the Stone Age and leave your palms feeling like 40 grit sandpaper. And the best part? This thing keeps working when it's freezing. Your basement, your tack room, that shed that never warms up, all fair game. But pulling moisture out of the air only handles half the battle, because there's another enemy floating around that you can't even see. Here's something most people get completely wrong about mold. You scrub the black patch off the wall, you feel proud, you walk away, and the spores you couldn't see, the ones drifting through the air, just land right back down and start the colony all over again. You didn't kill it, you gave it a haircut. This is where clove oil comes in, and honestly, it's the closest thing to a professional secret on this whole list. The pros down under in Australia use it constantly. Clove oil is loaded with a compound called eugenol, and eugenol doesn't mask mold or bleach the color out of it. It physically rips open the cell wall of the spore. In other words, it's permanent retirement for the mold. You can use it 2 ways. For a surface, mix a quarter teaspoon of clove oil into a liter of water, spray it on, leave it overnight, scrub it the next morning. For the air itself, put a few drops in a diffuser and let it run a day or two in a closed-up, musty room. And it works on the truly nasty molds, the aspergillus and penicillium that just laugh at bleach. Toss a few drops into that ice melt bucket from a minute ago, and now you've got a little machine that dries the air and disinfects it at the same time. Speaking of things the internet told you to use, let's talk about vinegar. Because you've definitely been told to spray vinegar on mold. And I need to correct the record. There's a 2015 study that tested vinegar against 2 of the most common household molds. And vinegar killed one of them just fine. The other one, aspergillus, the kind that loves hiding inside your walls and your vents, vinegar did absolutely nothing. Zero. And the cruel joke is, you cannot tell those 2 molds apart just by looking, so you're basically flipping a coin every time you reach for that spray bottle. And unless your intuition for microscopic fungi is better than my ability to pick winning lottery numbers, you're going to lose that bet. But there's hope, because in that same study, they tested tea tree oil. And tea tree oil wrecked both of them. Liquid form, vapor form, didn't matter. It was the single most effective natural option on the table, killing right around 90% of what they threw at it. Mix 2 teaspoons of tea tree oil into 2 cups of water. Shake it every single time because oil and water are stubborn roommates. Spray it on and walk away. Do not rinse it. That leftover residue keeps guarding the spot for weeks. Rinsing it off would be like calling the fire department, putting out the fire, and then handing everyone matches on the way out. I'm not telling you to dump your vinegar. For a little patch on bathroom tile, it's fine. But for anything soaked into wood or drywall, tea tree wins every time. And now this jar, the one I promised you at the very start. If you keep chickens or horses, there's a very good chance this exact mineral is sitting in your barn right now. It's zeolite. A lot of folks know it by the name sweet pea DZ, the stuff you sprinkle in the coop or the stall to kill that sharp ammonia stink. It's a volcanic mineral, and under a microscope, it looks like a sponge made of crystal. Those tiny pockets trap water vapor and trap the ammonia molecules too, which is why it kills the smell instead of just perfuming over it. Now carry that bag inside. Fill a jar or a breathable sock and tuck it in a damp closet, a gun safe, the corner of the basement, under the kitchen sink. It drinks up 40 to 60% of its weight in water without you doing a thing. But here's the kicker that makes it better than anything you'll buy. It never wears out. When it's full, bake it in the oven at a couple hundred degrees, or just leave it out in the hot sun for an afternoon. The water cooks right back out, and the crystal resets like brand new. It'll last you the rest of your life. But yeah, essentially the fix for your musty gun cabinet has been sitting 20 feet from your back door this whole time. All right, next one is less of a product and more of a complete shift in how you think. Because sometimes mold isn't a moisture problem at all. Have you ever noticed mold shows up in the same exact spot every time? That corner where two outside walls meet. Behind the dresser shoved up against the outer wall. It's never random, and the reason is temperature, not water. That corner is the coldest surface in the room. Warm, damp air drifts over, touches that cold spot, and the moisture condenses right out of it. The same way a glass of iced tea sweats on a summer porch. Now you've got a thin film of water sitting on the wall, and mold has everything it ever wanted. And this is the part that drives people crazy. They run an expensive dehumidifier for months, sucking the ambient air so dry their lips crack, and then wonder why that one corner still grows fuzz. Well, of course it's still going to. The room's air was never really the problem. The wall was just too cold. So pull your furniture a couple inches off the outside walls and let air slide behind it. Add a little insulation to the trouble corners. Wrap any cold water pipes that sweat. Your air isn't too wet. Your wall is too cold. Then there's the root cellar, where most people make one simple mistake that turns the whole thing into a swamp. They put in one vent. Or they put two vents at the same height, and the air just short circuits and goes nowhere. The old-timers before us figured this out a century ago. You want two pipes, one low near the floor and one high near the ceiling, sitting in opposite corners. Warm, stale air floats up and out the high one. Fresh, cool air gets pulled in the low one. No fan, no power, just warm air rising the way it always has. 4-inch PVC handles a small cellar. Go 6-inch if it's bigger. And please put a screen over the ends unless you are trying to build a luxury apartment complex for local field mice. If you want to be even more efficient, run that intake pipe underground for 20 or 30 feet first, and the earth will cool the summer air and warm the winter air before it ever arrives. And tilt the intake slightly downhill toward the outside so any water that condenses inside drains away from your potatoes instead of dripping on them. One last thing. If you see frost or sweat building on those cellar walls, that's not a sign of good cold storage. That's your ventilation waving a white flag. And once you understand that rising air does the work for free, you can make it pull even harder with a $2 can of spray paint. Paint the exposed part of that exhaust pipe flat black. The sun hits the black metal, heats the air trapped inside, and hot air shoots upward faster, yanking the damp air out of your space with real force. It's the same principle they use in those giant solar towers that generate electricity, except you built it for the price of a coffee. Works on cellars, crawl space vents, barn stacks, that stuffy upstairs room that always feels like a sauna. Now let's talk about stopping mold before the wood ever gets a chance to rot. If you're building a co-op, a shed, or framing out a basement, treat that bare lumber first with a boron solution. The boron salts soak deep into the wood and turn it into poison for anything that wants to eat it. Rot fungus, termites, all of it. They simply can't survive on treated wood, and it'll even kill bugs already living inside it. As long as the wood stays out of standing rain, that protection lasts essentially forever. The store sells this as Boracare for over $100 a gallon. Or you grab a box of borax and some boric acid from the laundry aisle, stir it into hot water, and make the same thing for about $5. Then there's a desiccant hiding in the most ridiculous place, the pet aisle. Those little do not eat packets in every shoebox and pill bottle are silica gel, and crystal cat litter, the clear, sparkly kind, is the very same material sold by the giant jug. The boating crowd has used this for winter storage for years. Pour it in cloth sacks for your closets, boot trays, the gun safe, the camper. And like the zeolite, just bake it dry and use it again. Let's pick up the pace with a few quick ones. Diatomaceous earth absorbs damp, and its razor-sharp edges shred any soft-bodied bug that crawls through it. The trick isn't dumping it in the coop, you know that already. It's the placement. Puff it behind the baseboards and into the crawl space where silverfish actually breed. Use food grade only and wear a mask, because that fine dust is rough on your lungs. Got mold already soaked into the wood? Hit it with 3% peroxide first to kill it down at the root. Then follow with tea tree oil to guard the surface. The order is the whole secret. Don't rinse either one. And cedar. Everybody knows cedar blocks fight musty smells. What they don't know is those blocks don't die. They just go quiet when the surface oil dries up. A light sanding wakes them right back up. People toss them in the trash and buy new ones when 30 seconds of sandpaper would have done it. Now for a trick your great-grandmother knew by heart, lime whitewash. Plain lime sits at a pH of 12, and mold simply cannot grow above 10 or 11. The chemistry just won't allow it. Better yet, lime breathes. Regular paint traps moisture behind a plastic skin and feeds the mold underneath, but lime pulls damp out of the wall and releases it back when things dry. Hospitals coated their walls with it for centuries. One bucket does a whole room. And don't throw out the leftovers from your wood stove either. Charcoal stuffed in a sock soaks up moisture and odor and resets in the sun. A can of wood ash in a damp corner quietly does the same. Just keep that ash contained, because once it gets truly wet, it turns into lye, and lye will eat your floor finish and your hands. But here's the truth that ties it all together. About 60% of your damp comes straight up out of the ground, so extend your downspout 6 feet off the house, slope the dirt away from the foundation, keep the gutters clear. Boring? Completely. But no bucket of pellets wins if water is pooling at your walls. And every spring before the humid months hit, throw the mattresses in the sun, that UV is free spore killer, and wipe your wood furniture with linseed oil. The families who never fight mold don't own better gadgets. They just understood it was a system, not a product, and now so do you.